In this section, we will learn about willful cruelty and unjustifiable punishment, unlawful corporal punishment, sexual abuse, neglect, emotional abuse, and mandated reporter timelines. Willful cruelty or unjustifiable punishment of a child means a situation where any person willfully causes or permits any child to suffer or inflicts unjustifiable physical pain or mental suffering, or having the care or custody of any child willfully causes or permits the person or health of a child to be placed in a situation such that his or her person or health is endangered. Unlawful corporal punishment or injury is a situation where any person willfully inflicts upon any child any cruel or inhuman corporal punishment or injury resulting in a traumatic condition. Sexual abuse includes sexual assault and sexual exploitation. Sexual abuse is defined as the employment, use, persuasion, inducement, enticement, or coercion of any child to engage in or assist any other person to engage in any sexually explicit conduct or simulation of such conduct for the purpose of producing a visual depiction of such conduct, or the rape, and in cases of caretaker or interfamiliar relationships, statutory rape, molestation, prostitution, or other form of sexual exploitation of children, or incest with children. Sexual exploitation generally means to take unfair advantage of someone. The definition of sexual exploitation is the use of a child for sexual purposes in exchange for cash or in-kind favors between a customer, intermediary or agent, or others who profit from the trade in children for these purposes, parent, family member, procurer, teacher. It includes child pornography, child sexual abuse, obscenity, prostitution of a child, or child trafficking. You become concerned because 4-year-old Sarah, a student in your class, is caught exposing herself to other children on the playground and telling them to touch her. You talk to her about this behavior, and she informs you that her 14-year-old brother always wants to see her pee-pee and likes to touch it. What should you do? C. Make a child abuse report for possible sexual abuse. Sarah has made a disclosure of possible sexual abuse. You must report. It is not appropriate to tell the parent or accused party what the child has disclosed when contacted by an angry parent or caregiver regarding the suspected child abuse report. What is neglect? Neglect refers to the negligent treatment or the maltreatment of a child by his or her caregiver that results in harm or could be harmful. Neglect can be general, severe, physical, educational, or emotional. General neglect means the failure of a caregiver of a child to provide adequate food, clothing, shelter, medical care, or supervision, where no physical injury to the child has occurred. Severe neglect is the extreme or persistent failure of a person responsible for the child's welfare to provide food, clothing, shelter, medical care, or supervision. It also means those situations of neglect where any person having the care or custody of a child willfully causes or permits the person or health of the child to be placed in a situation such as his or her person or health is endangered. Physical neglect includes refusal of or delay in seeking medical or dental care, abandonment, expulsion from the home, or refusal to allow a runaway to return home, and inadequate supervision. Educational neglect includes the allowance of chronic truancy, failure to enroll a child of mandatory school age in school, or providing proper home schooling, and failure to attend to a special educational need. Emotional neglect includes such actions as marked inattention to the child's needs for affection, refusal of or failure to provide a psychological care, spouse abuse in the child's presence, or permission for drug or alcohol use by the child. The following red flags may be indicative of neglect. These red flags include dirty clothes, poor hygiene, failure to thrive or a malnourished child, severe dental cavities, developmental delays. Red flags in the home environment include medications, cleaners, toxins within reach of a child, guns or other weapons that are not properly secured, trash, rotted food, insects or animal waste, choking hazards within reach of an infant or toddler. A 4-year-old girl in your facility often complains that she is hungry, saying that she does not eat at her house. She frequently asks you for extra food. You also notice that her clothing is often inappropriate for the weather, and she appears dirty and unkempt. She does not play with the other children and rarely laughs or smiles. You have tried to speak with her mother about your concerns, but she is usually in a hurry and seems to resent your intrusion. What concerns would you have about this student? The answer is D, both A and B, possible general neglect and possible economic hardship. In this example, it would be appropriate to make a report of possible general neglect. If the family is experiencing economic hardship, they may need assistance accessing available services. Reporting will give the investigative agencies the opportunity to assess the situation and determine the appropriate response. In the course of your work, you work with a troublesome 4-year-old boy. He has frequent and severe behavior problems and is taking psychiatric medication for a mood disorder. You notice the child is not eating lunch. When you ask why, he tells you that he got in trouble with his parents and is not allowed to eat today. He tells you he can't remember the last time he ate, but it was a long time ago, and he must sit at the table while the rest of the family eats at home. What do you do? The answer is E. You could report concerns of either neglect or emotional abuse, and it is best to report both. While it is common to send children to bed without dinner or dessert, this child has been deprived of food for 2 days, which is extreme. Having the child watch the remainder of the family eat is cruel. You do not need to address the issue with the parents, and it is not your job to determine if this is the truth or not. You must only report. Additionally, talking with the parents may place the child at risk for further punishment or harm. What is emotional abuse? Emotional abuse of a child is commonly defined as a pattern of behavior by parents or caregivers that can seriously interfere with a child's cognitive, emotional, psychological, or social development. It can include ignoring, rejecting, belittling, screaming, threatening, or blaming. It also can include constant criticism, intimidation, humiliation, acts intended to produce fear or guilt, withholding of love and support, and isolation. Witnessing of domestic violence may also be reported as emotional abuse. Emotional abuse can cause serious emotional damage or a substantial risk of serious emotional damage, including, but not limited to, severe anxiety, depression, withdrawal, or untoward aggressive behavior towards self or others. Emotional abuse is the most difficult form of child maltreatment to identify. First, the effects of emotional maltreatment, such as delay in physical development, learning problems, and speech disorders, are often found in children who have not experienced emotional maltreatment. Second, the effects of emotional maltreatment may not be seen until later in the child's life. Third, the behaviors of emotionally abused and emotionally disturbed children are often similar. Emotional abuse is often difficult to prove. Documentation over time by the Child Protection Agency may be necessary before it can take action. Finally, emotional abuse is often seen in combination with other forms of abuse. Any child who is being physically abused, sexually abused, or neglected is also being emotionally abused. Notice that 4-year-old child appears depressed and withdrawn. When playing alone or with peers, you hear her refer to her playmates or herself as stupid, lazy, and fat. She also says she worries about her mother getting hurt and tells you Daddy likes beer a lot. She has begun wetting herself and sucks her thumb frequently, now especially on Mondays. What do you do? The answer is A. You would make a suspected child abuse report based on this information. It is appropriate to make a report. Note that the child appears depressed and withdrawn, is reporting criticism by a caretaker, and describes possible exposure to family violence. These are all indicators of emotional abuse that may be reported. In addition, there may be more to the situation than what a child initially discloses, and reporting will allow the investigating agency to further assess the situation. Here are the phone numbers to call to make a report. Once you've made the call, you must follow up with a written DOJ Form 8572 within 36 hours of the phone call. It is helpful to complete this form before phoning in your report. You will then have the information you will need ready for the social worker or law enforcement officer who takes your call. If the situation is urgent or if there is an immediate threat, please call the police. Any person who fails to report is guilty of a misdemeanor punishable up to 6 months in jail, punishable by a fine up to $1,000, or both, and may be subject to civil damages. So reporting is a must. He or she may also be found civilly liable for damages, especially if the child victim or another child is further victimized because of the failure to report. Furthermore, Penal Code Section 1166.01b states that any mandated reporter who willfully fails to report abuse or neglect, or any person who impedes or inhibits a report of abuse or neglect, or that abuse or neglect results in death or great bodily injury, shall be punished by not more than a year in a county jail, by a fine by not more than $5,000, or both fine or imprisonment. This is what a DOJ Form 8572 looks like. You should make a child abuse report even if you're unable to complete all the information requested on the SCAR form. When 2 or more mandated reporters have knowledge of suspected child abuse or neglect, one member of the reporting team must make the required reports to the Child Protection Agency and licensing facility. Any member of the reporting team who has knowledge that the designated person has failed to report must do so him or herself. Make sure the report has been made. When possible, the person chosen to make the report should be the person with the most information about the suspected abuse or neglect. For example, the person to whom the child disclosed. Facility staff are required to call or fax a report to their local licensing office whenever a mandated child abuse report is made. The report to the licensing office must be made by telephone or fax during the licensing office's normal business hours and before the close of the next working day following the day on which the reportable event occurred or was discovered. For Stanislaus County, our local regional licensing office is located in Fresno. Make sure that you are reporting directly to the Fresno licensing office that serves your facility. You may call the local licensing office and speak with the licensing officer of the day for questions and assistance with making your report. A written report must be submitted to the local licensing office within 7 days using either the Unusual Incident Injury Report form or a letter that contains detailed information required by California law. If you made the initial report by faxing the Unusual Incident Injury Report directly to your local licensing office, you do not need to submit anything further. The information required in your written report includes child's name, age, sex, and date of admission, date and nature of the event, attending physician's name and treatment provided, if any, and outcome of the incident. The Child Care Licensing Program has developed the Unusual Incident Injury Report Form, license number 624, to make it easier for you to submit your report. The form and instructions are available online by searching license number 624 Unusual Incident Injury Report. You can also request a copy of the form from your local licensing office. It is helpful to complete this form before phoning in your report. You will then have the information you will need ready for the licensing office staff who takes your call. Reminder: 2 reports are required when child care professionals make a report. One must be made to the Child Protection Agency, and another separate report must be made to the licensing office. Reporting to the licensing facility alone does not fulfill the mandated reporter requirements for child abuse and neglect. You provide care for a 3-year-old girl who is bright and engaging. However, you notice that recently her behavior has changed. She touches herself excessively and has been observed trying to insert toys into her vagina. When you talk with her mother about your concerns, she tells you of additional behavioral changes that she has observed. She explains that her daughter has been wetting the bed and wakes up frequently during the night. She thinks this behavior began after her child started visiting her father, who recently got out of prison. She says that when she asks her daughter about the visits, she replies, "I can't tell you, or Daddy will be mad at me." She says she does not know what to do and asks for your advice. What should you do? You should explain your role as a mandated reporter and let Mom know that based on the child's concerning behavioral changes and responses to Mom's questions, a suspected child abuse report should be made so that protective services workers might be assigned and concerns evaluated further. In this situation, Mom might be willing to participate in making the report, and you can make the call to your local child protection agency together. But please note, you must make the call even if Mom does not. You are a preschool teacher. You are concerned that a young child may be abused at home. You talk with a colleague about your concerns, but do not report because you are not sure. The child is hospitalized the following week for severe inflicted injuries. During the course of this investigation, authorities realized that you had concerns but did not report. Which of the following could happen? The answer is E, all of the above. You could go to jail for 6 months for the misdemeanor offense. You could be fined $1,000 for the misdemeanor offense, and your facility could be cited for non-compliance with licensing requirements. You could be sued in civil court by the non-offending parent or family member, and you could lose your license or credential.